There is a moment that all of us who love our dogs deeply fear, that final instant, when the breath stops and the body stills. But what really happens at that very moment? What does our four-legged companion experience when they cross the line between this world and the next? Edgar Cayce was categorical in his psychic readings. Death is not an abrupt end, but a smooth transition. For dogs, that passage happens even more gently than for humans. Why? Because animals do not carry the weight of ego, existential fear, or limiting beliefs about death that we humans accumulate over the course of life. They simply allow the process to unfold. In the final instant, a dog's consciousness does not extinguish. It expands. Cayce described that moment as a gentle awakening, much like waking from a deep sleep into a luminous morning. The physical pain that may have accompanied the animal in its last days or hours disappears instantaneously. There is no more diseased body, no weary heart, no unresponsive joints. There is only a sensation of absolute lightness. During physical life, the dog's perception is filtered through the senses of the body. They see, smell, hear, and feel through biological receptors. But at the moment of transition, those filters fall away. Consciousness is freed, and, suddenly, the dog perceives dimensions of reality that have always been there, but were invisible to the physical eyes. It is as if someone turned on all the lights in a house you've always inhabited in darkness. Cayce revealed something deeply comforting. At the exact moment of death, dogs feel no fear. Fear is an emotion that only exists when there is attachment to the body and to the ego. Animals, in their natural wisdom, do not cling to the physical form in the same way we do. They live fully in the present, and when the moment to depart arrives, they simply go ahead. There is an innate trust, a deep knowing that all is well. But what about the caretaker? Does the dog feel our pain at that moment? Yes, it does. The emotional connection between you does not break with the death of the body. In the first seconds after transition, the dog is still very close to the physical plane, as if standing at the exit door, glancing back one last time. It perceives your suffering, your pain, your tears. And something remarkable happens. The dog feels an impulse to comfort you, even from the other side. Many people report sensing a comforting presence right after their pet's death. A sense of peace that defies logical explanation, given the pain of the moment. Cayce explained that this is not imagination. It is the dog, in its first conscious act after leaving the body, sending a wave of love and tranquility to its human. It is as if it is saying, "I am okay. Do not suffer for me." The transition itself lasts only a few seconds in earthly time, but for the dog's consciousness, it may seem longer or even timeless. There is no rushing in the spiritual realm. The animal experiences a peace that transcends anything it felt during life. It is a peace that does not depend on external circumstances, on being beside you in bed, or on receiving affection. It is a peace that arises from recognizing, even if non-verbally or non-conceptually, that its essence was never truly bound to the body. What we need to understand now is this. When your dog closes its eyes for the last time in this world, it is not entering darkness, it is entering light. The pain is gone. Fear does not exist. And the journey that is only beginning is more beautiful than we can imagine. The death of the physical body is only the end of a chapter, not the whole book. So what happens next? Your dog has just left the physical body, experienced that profound relief, that absolute lightness. And now, where does it awaken? In what kind of place? And more importantly, is it confused, disoriented, or is there an immediate clarity about what occurred? Edgar Cayce was very specific about this. The first moments in the astral plane vary from animal to animal, but follow a general pattern. And that pattern depends on a crucial factor, how the dog's earthly life was, and especially how its death was. A dog that passed naturally, in peace, surrounded by love, generally experiences a smooth and clear transition. It awakens in the astral plane with full awareness that something changed, but without panic or disorientation. It is like waking in a room different from the one you fell asleep in, yet feeling that you are exactly where you should be. There is a sense of familiarity, though the environment is entirely new. Now, a dog that died traumatically, suddenly, or with great suffering, may experience some initial confusion. Cayce explained that this is not suffering in the sense we understand, but a kind of adjustment of consciousness. Imagine you are watching a movie with the screen very dark, and suddenly someone increases the brightness to maximum. Your eyes take a few seconds to adjust. It is something like that. The animal's consciousness needs to calibrate to the new vibrational frequency of the astral plane, but this confusion, when present, lasts very briefly, minutes, perhaps hours in earthly time, because in the astral plane, time does not function as it does here. And there is something fundamental that accelerates this adjustment process: the presence of other beings. The astral plane where dogs awaken is not a dark void or an abstract space without form. According to Cayce, it is an environment that reflects the animal's consciousness. For a dog, that means a place that feels natural, nurturing, familiar. The first thing the dog perceives is that its body functions differently. It attempts to move and discovers there are no longer limitations. That elderly dog who could barely walk in its last months of life suddenly can run again. The paws respond instantly. There is no joint pain, no fatigue. A dog that had lost sight or hearing finds it can perceive everything with clarity greater than in its youth. This generates a kind of immediate joy. Cayce mentioned that animals feel a spontaneous euphoria in the first moments after death, simply by rediscovering the fullness of their capacities. It is as if they are debuting a new, better, more responsive body. And that body is not constrained by the physical laws we know. The dog can move by thought. Do you want to be in a particular place? Just think, and you are there. But here is the most touching detail. In those first moments, many dogs try to return. Not because the astral plane is bad or frightening, but because the connection to you is still very strong. They think of you and instantly find themselves back in the physical environment where you were. This explains why so many people feel the presence of the animal right after its death. You may feel a touch, notice a movement out of the corner of your eye, or simply have that unmistakable sense that they are there. And they are. The dog has not yet fully moved onward because it is processing separation from you just as you are processing separation from it. Cayce explained that this phase is temporary, but necessary. The dog needs to understand that its physical form has ended, but its existence continues, and it needs, in some way, to energetically bid farewell. It is not a final goodbye, but a recognition that things have changed. During those first hours or days, the dog may alternate between the astral plane and the physical environment where you are. It is not trapped between worlds, as some believe. It is simply using its new freedom of consciousness to traverse dimensions. And each time it returns to the astral, it becomes a little clearer to it that that is its new temporary home. Clarity comes naturally. No one is verbally explaining what happened. Animals do not require that. They feel. They know through direct perception, not through concepts or words. And as that clarity is established, something extraordinary occurs. They recognize they are not alone. They never were. And that changes everything. The initial confusion, if it exists, dissolves completely at the moment the dog recognizes the presences that came to receive it. And those presences are not strangers. They are faces, energies, essences that the animal knows deeply. Because in the spiritual realm, no one crosses the threshold of death alone. Especially not dogs, who throughout their earthly lives were masters at creating bonds of love. Now we arrive at one of Edgar Cayce's most emotionally profound and comforting revelations about the death of animals. When your dog awakens in the astral plane, it is not alone, never was. There are presences there, waiting for it, ready to guide it on this new journey. But who are those presences? And why are they there? Cayce was very clear in his readings. Dogs are received by three main types of beings. The first, and perhaps the most touching, are other animals that passed before it. If you had other dogs, cats, or any pet that died, they will be there. They are waiting. And the reunion takes place with explosive joy that transcends any expression of affection you ever witnessed in the physical realm. Imagine the scene. Your dog, who just realized it can move freely, that there is no pain, suddenly senses a familiar presence. It turns and sees that other dog you once had, the one who passed when this one was still a puppy, or even before it came into the family. But the recognition is instantaneous. In the spiritual realm, souls know each other beyond forms. It matters not if they never coexisted physically. The connection exists because both shared the same energy field, the same family, the same home. But it's not just animals from the same family who appear. Cayce mentioned something extraordinary. There are what he called animal guardians, evolved animal spirits who have chosen the mission of receiving and guiding other animals during their transition. These beings have not reincarnated again because they've reached a level of consciousness that allows them to serve in a different way. They are like mentors, spiritual guides, but in animal form. These guardians have a deep wisdom about the transition process. They understand what the newly arrived soul is feeling, its initial confusion, its longing for its caretaker, the strangeness of the new environment. And through a form of communication that goes beyond sounds or gestures, they transmit peace, safety, and guidance. It's as if they say without words, "You are safe, we are here, we will show you the way." Now, the third type of presence is the most surprising. Cayce revealed that dogs are also received by human beings, but not just any humans. These are people who had a special connection with animals during their earthly life. Caretakers who passed on before, who deeply loved animals, who dedicated their lives to caring for and protecting them. These human souls choose to stay close to the plane where animals transition, offering their love and care. It could be your grandfather, who passed away years ago and loved dogs just as much as you do. It could be a family member you never met personally, but who in the spiritual realm maintains a connection with the family lineage and its animals. And when these human souls appear to receive your dog, they bring with them an energy the animal instantly recognizes, the energy of family, of home, of the unconditional love it knew on earth. There is something deeply comforting in that. Your dog is not being received by strangers. It is being welcomed by a community of souls who already loved it before it even arrived in the astral plane. It's like coming home after a long journey and finding everyone waiting for you at the door with hugs and smiles. But the reunion is not only emotional. It serves a practical and important purpose. These beings, whether animals or humans, help the newly arrived dog understand where it is and what happens next. They show the surroundings, introduce the spaces, and explain, through energy and feeling, how the new reality works. It is a gentle, patient, and loving orientation. Cayce described that in the first moments, dogs still carry some behavioral patterns from their earthly life. A dog who is protective may still try to protect something. A dog who is playful will want to play. And the guardians allow that. They don't force a sudden change. They let the animal express its nature while gradually helping it expand beyond those patterns. And here's a detail that will touch your heart. Among all the beings who receive your dog, there is always at least one who has a specific task. This soul is responsible for keeping the dog connected to you, because while you are still alive in the physical plane, the bond between you remains active, pulsing, real, and someone on the other side must help your animal navigate that connection without getting lost in it, without becoming stuck between the worlds. This specific guardian will teach your dog something fundamental. It can feel you, it can send love to you, it can even visit you energetically, but it cannot remain permanently in the physical plane. There is a journey ahead for it. There is evolution taking place. And although the love between you is eternal, the dog must move forward in order to grow, to heal completely, to prepare for what comes next. The reunion with these beings is not a single event that happens and ends. It is a continuous process. During the first days after death, your dog is constantly surrounded by this community of loving souls. They do not leave it alone for even a moment, and this constant presence is what allows the healing process to begin. Because yes, even in the spiritual plane, healing is happening. And this healing goes far beyond the physical body left behind. Have you felt, in the days following your dog's passing, that it was still there? That inexplicable sensation of presence, as if it were lying in its usual spot or walking behind you through the house. You're not imagining it. According to Edgar Cayce, that perception is absolutely real. The connection between you and your dog is not broken by the death of the physical body. In fact, in many ways, it intensifies. Here's something that changes everything. In the spiritual plane, distance doesn't exist. Thought and presence are the same thing. When you think of your dog with love, with longing, with that deep ache in your chest, you are literally creating an energetic bridge between the two worlds. And your dog feels it instantly. It doesn't matter where it is in the astral plane, what it's doing or experiencing at that moment. It feels you. Cayce explained that in the first few days after death, that connection is even more intense because the dog has not yet fully moved away from Earth's vibrational frequency. It is in an intermediate zone where it can perceive both the astral and physical planes clearly, and during this time, it is extremely attuned to you. Every time you cry, every time you look at its photo, every time you miss the routines you shared, it knows. It feels everything. But what exactly does it feel? Cayce described that dogs perceive their caretaker's emotions as waves of colored energy. Your sadness reaches it as a dense, heavy wave in dark tones. Your love arrives as a bright, warm, enveloping light. And here's what's most important. The dog responds to these waves. When it perceives your pain, its immediate instinct is the same as it always was in life, to comfort you. That's why so many people report inexplicable experiences right after their pet's death. You're crying on the couch and suddenly feel a weight beside you, as if it had jumped up. You're in bed at night and feel something touch your leg, just the way it used to. You hear the sound of paws in the hallway, the jingle of a collar, its characteristic sigh. These are not hallucinations created by grief. They are real manifestations of your dog's presence. Tell me in the comments if you've ever felt this strong connection with your dog after their death. Cayce taught that in the first 3 to 7 days after death, the dog makes frequent visits to the physical environment where you lived. It walks the same paths, smells the same places, lies in the same corners. Not because it's confused or stuck, but because it is still processing the separation and, more importantly, because it wants to be near you. Its love hasn't diminished one bit. The loyalty it felt in life remains intact. And if you are suffering, it wants to ease that pain the only way it knows how, by being present. But there's something we need to understand. While the dog feels your emotions clearly, The way it interprets them is different from how we interpret others' emotions. Dogs do not judge, do not analyze, do not create stories about what you're feeling. They simply receive the energy and respond to it. When you cry, it doesn't think, "My human is sad because they miss me." It simply feels the energy of sadness and wants to transform it into peace. And here's something extraordinary that Cayce revealed. You can actively communicate with your dog during this period, not through words, but through intention and feeling. When you close your eyes and visualize your pet, when you speak to it out loud or in your mind, when you consciously send love in its direction, that communication crosses the planes. It receives it. It understands. And it responds by sending back waves of peace and comfort to you. Many caretakers do this instinctively without realizing it. You look at its photo and say, "I hope you're okay, my love." That is not just a phrase thrown into the wind. It's a real energetic message that reaches it. And its response may come in subtle ways. A sudden feeling of peace you didn't expect, a vivid dream that night, or simply an inner knowing that it is okay. Dreams, in fact, are one of the most powerful channels of communication during this time. Cayce emphasized that when you dream of your dog soon after its death, especially if the dream feels extraordinarily real and vivid, it is not just your subconscious processing the loss. It is a genuine meeting in the astral plane. During sleep, your consciousness shifts to frequencies closer to the plane where it is. And in these dream encounters, the two of you can be together again, play, embrace, exchange energy. Pay attention to the dreams you have with it. If in the dream it appears healthy, young, happy, running freely, that is not wishful thinking. It is a message showing that it is well. If in the dream it approaches you, touches you, licks your face, or simply looks into your eyes with that deep, knowing gaze, it is saying, "I'm here. I still love you. I'm okay." But the connection is not one way, with you missing it and it visiting. The dog also goes through a complex emotional process. Does it miss you? Yes, in a way. It's not the anguished longing that we humans experience, because in the spiritual plane there is no sense of permanent loss. But there is a kind of yearning, a desire to be close, to continue sharing energy with you. Cayce mentioned that some dogs, especially those who had very intense bonds with their caretakers, choose to remain longer near the physical plane, precisely because of that connection. They don't want to fully move on while they feel you still need their presence. It's as if they are saying, "I know there is a path ahead for me, but I won't go yet, not while you are suffering so much." And this brings us to something important you need to know. The way you deal with grief directly affects your dog's spiritual journey. When you remain in deep, inconsolable pain for a long time, it creates a kind of energetic anchor. It's not that you're preventing them from moving on in a negative way, but you are causing them to choose to stay around you longer, delaying their own evolution and healing. On the other hand, when you're able to transform pain into gratitude, when you celebrate the life you had together instead of only mourning its end, you're releasing your dog to move forward on their journey with lightness. You're saying energetically, "I love you, I miss you, but I want you to go, to grow, to experience everything the spiritual realm has to offer. I'll be okay. And one day we'll meet again." This conscious release is one of the greatest gifts you can give your companion. And here's the beautiful paradox. When you do this, when you release them with love, the connection between you doesn't weaken. It purifies. It transforms into something higher, subtler, but just as powerful. The connection between you and your dog is eternal. It was forged in unconditional love, and that kind of love knows no barriers. Not death, not time, Not the distance between worlds can erase it. But for that connection to become a source of peace and not pain, both you and your dog must go through a healing process. Now we arrive at a deep and transformative aspect of your dog's journey in the spiritual realm. You might think, but wait, they're already free of the sick body, no longer in physical pain, surrounded by love. What else needs to be healed? Edgar Cayce's answer is clear and touching. Spiritual healing goes far beyond the body. It touches emotional scars, stored fears, the painful experiences the soul carries. Every dog, like every being who experiences physical life, accumulates impressions throughout life. Some are luminous, full of love and joy. Others are dark, filled with fear, abandonment, trauma. And these impressions don't just remain in the body. They are imprinted on the consciousness itself, in the energetic structure of the being. When the body dies, these marks remain, and they need to be released. Think of the dog who was rescued from the streets, who went hungry and cold, who was beaten by strangers before finding you. During the years they spent in your home, they were loved, well cared for, safe. But those early life memories are still there, imprinted on their soul. Or think of the dog who had a painful illness, who underwent invasive vet procedures, who suffered before passing. The physical pain is gone, but the energetic memory of that pain remains. Cayce explained that the astral plane offers a natural process of healing for these marks. It's not a quick or mechanical process. It's organic, gentle, deeply loving, and it happens in layers. In the first days after death, the dog is primarily adjusting to the new environment, recognizing the presences around them, maintaining their connection with you. But at the same time, something extraordinary is already beginning. The invisible wounds are being washed by a healing light. This light is not metaphorical. Cayce described the astral plane as being permeated by vibrational frequencies of pure love, something he called the Creator's light. This energy permeates everything, and animals, being naturally receptive and free of the human ego's barriers, absorb this light almost automatically. It's as if every cell of their consciousness is being bathed in healing. But more is happening. The spiritual guardians and other animals who welcomed your dog play an active role in this process. They work energetically with the newly arrived soul, helping dissolve blockages, release traumatic memories. This doesn't happen through therapy or conversation in the human sense. It happens through presence, through energetic touch, through direct transmission of unconditional love. Imagine your dog carrying a memory of being abandoned before you found them. That memory created a scar, a deep, nonverbal belief that they could be left behind again. Throughout their life with you, that mark influenced their behavior. Maybe they had separation anxiety. Maybe they got nervous when you left the house. Now, in the spiritual realm, a guardian approaches, and through a communication that transcends words, transmits a truth. You were never truly abandoned. You were always loved. That experience was just part of a path that led you to love. It doesn't define who you are. And something extraordinary happens. The mark begins to dissolve. It isn't erased as if it never existed, because experiences are part of the soul's journey, but it loses its power to cause pain. It becomes just a neutral memory, part of the story, but no longer an open wound. This process happens for every trauma, every fear, every pain the dog carried, and it takes time. Cayce mentioned that the first days in the astral plane are only the beginning of this healing. Depending on the intensity of their life experiences, the process may extend for weeks or even months in earthly time. But the dog is not suffering during this time. Quite the opposite. Every release brings a growing sense of lightness, of expansion, of inner freedom. There is also healing of physical pain imprinted in cellular memory. Yes, even without a physical body, the consciousness still holds the memory of what it was like to inhabit that body. A dog who spent their last month struggling to breathe still initially carries the sensation of breathlessness. A dog with joint pain still feels echoes of that stiffness. But in the astral plane, those echoes are gradually softened until they disappear completely. Before we continue, if you feel it's time to elevate your consciousness and start manifesting the reality you desire, I invite you to join the Quantum Thinking Challenge. In 21 days, you'll reprogram your mind, raise your vibration, and unlock your full energetic potential. I've received inspiring messages from people living extraordinary results. Want to be next? Click the link in the first pinned comment. Cayce also spoke about something less obvious but equally important: healing the limitations of consciousness. During physical life, every animal is limited by the brain's biological structure, species, instincts, and environmental conditioning. A dog, no matter how intelligent, operates within the parameters of what a canine brain allows. But in the spiritual realm, those limitations fall away. Consciousness expands. And that expansion can initially be disorienting. The dog suddenly perceives things it never noticed before. It understands connections that were previously beyond its capacity. It sees its life from a broader perspective. It's as if someone who always saw the world through a tiny window was suddenly placed in an open field with 360-degree vision. It's wonderful, but it takes adjustment. The guardians help with that adjustment. They teach the dog to navigate this expanded consciousness without getting lost in it. They teach that it is still itself, with its unique personality, preferences, and traits. But now it can be all of that, and more. It can be itself, and, at the same time, recognize that it is part of something much greater. During this healing process, something deeply comforting happens. The dog begins to understand, non-verbally but absolutely, the purpose of the life it had by your side. It realizes that every moment mattered. Every time it made you smile, every time it was by your side when you were sad, every hug, every play, every glance, it all had deep meaning. It wasn't just a dog living a dog's life. It was a soul's journey, a mission of love. And when that understanding becomes fully established, when all wounds are healed and consciousness has fully expanded, the dog reaches a state of peace that surpasses anything you can imagine. It is complete. It is whole. It is home, in the deepest sense of the word. There is a question that haunts almost every caretaker after their dog's passing. How long will they stay around? When will they leave for good? It's a question filled with emotional contradictions. The truth is, there is no fixed timeline. There's no universal rule that says every dog stays near Earth for exactly 30 days and then departs forever. Every soul is unique, every bond is different, every spiritual journey follows its own rhythm. But there are patterns, phases, stages that most dogs go through. The first phase is what Cayce called the immediate vigil. It usually lasts from 3 to 7 days. During this period, the dog is extremely close to the physical plane, almost as if existing in 2 dimensions simultaneously. It is still processing the transition, recognizing the spiritual guardians, but at the same time, constantly returning to be near you. During the second phase, which may last 2 to 6 weeks, the signs become less frequent but don't disappear. You might go days without noticing anything, and then suddenly have a vivid dream or feel a sudden presence. The third phase is what Cayce called full integration into the astral plane. This usually happens between 6 weeks to 3 months after death. At this point, The dog has completed their life review, processed all memories, healed all emotional and energetic wounds. They are fully adapted to the spiritual plane. They no longer visit the physical environment frequently, not because they've forgotten or stopped loving you, but because they are now fully living in a different dimension. In the end, the question, how long do they stay near, has a complex, individual answer. Physically, energetically close, a few weeks to a few months in most cases. But connected to you on a soul level, able to feel when you think of them, carrying the essence of your bond forever, eternally, without exception, without an expiration date. Cayce ended his readings on this topic with a beautiful image. Imagine the universe as a great circle. You and your dog are 2 points on that circle. Now, in physical experience, it may seem like you're on opposite sides, separated by the greatest distance possible. But in truth, you've never moved away from the center of the circle. And the center of the circle is love. You are both equally close to that center, equally immersed in that love. And at the right moment, when the circle completes, when both your journeys converge again, you will meet. And it will be as if you were never apart, because in the realm of true love, of real soul connection, separation is only a temporary illusion, a necessary experience for growth, but not a permanent truth. The permanent truth is this: love is eternal. Souls connected remain connected, and every goodbye is just a see you soon in disguise. Your dog knows this. They always have, and now you know it too.